All right, so this is the body that I'm gonna put a teapot on. And this one's just two like half domes, half spheres that I pinched out, waited till they're a little hard, put them together, added a coil foot ring, cut out the top for my lid, added a little knob, and then built up a coil for the top of this gallery here. I'm gonna set that to the side for right now. I've got that spout, one of those spouts that I threw earlier. So if you can see, this kind of has a nice little slope to it to where this side is a little higher than this side. So I think it makes sense to kind of continue that upward movement with the spout. So as I look at this one here, obviously that's way too big, right? You know, we talked yesterday, you know, if I go down here, you know, I'm gonna be able to fill up less than half of this with water or tea or what have you. So I want to be much higher up, but obviously this is way too big. And this is coming off kind of projecting a lot further out in space, right? So it'd be much nicer if it was kind of coming up a little bit. So I'm gonna start by cutting this back. Like so. I don't think this is gonna be enough, but I'd rather cut off too much, or I'm sorry, not cut off enough, and have some room for error. So now, you know, this angle it's giving me is a little bit better, but this side piece is kind of too much, so I'm going to cut that down. I'm doing my best to keep this symmetrical. Okay. So that's getting there. Instead of continuing to cut this, as I get this into like smaller bits I need to remove, I'm gonna use a sharp one, in theory. You know, sometimes these cuts can need to be pretty precise. So I think a shear form is going to be much more efficient at not taking off too much. Sort of like that. You know, so I can make this really high up like this. And it really gets a nice added height to it. We'll see with the knob. You know, that extra lean to it has really makes for a nice kind of upward lift. You know, I could put a nice handle back here. If I put this high, it's going to be hard to connect and over the top. Might even be able to just do a side handle. Maybe I'll throw a side handle after this and think about how that looks. Because I kind of like this positioning. You know, it's a little bit, you know, it's almost borderline ridiculous, but I think that's okay. You know, it is a teapot after all. So how you cut this is really going to be dependent on what your form's like, you know, whether it's straight walled, round walled, things like that. You know, so this is kind of like that little bit of an R shape that we're talking about. You know, sometimes spouts come off like, people will make spouts that look almost like it has this sort of shape coming off, kind of like an upturned elephant trunk, and that's going to be really difficult to pour out of. But this, if we look at the line that's created by here in the midsection, it just naturally flows right out of that. Or if we do something more like this, there's going to be kind of a big flat slope, and that's not going to be very good. So I'm just going to look and make sure that that's fairly straight. And now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife or a needle tool, what have you, and draw this out. Connect a few dots. There we go. So there's my line, but I want to you know, account for the thickness of this wall. So I'm actually going to draw this in a little bit. so that I have somewhere to connect to, like so. So I talked a little bit about this. Let me take this off so I don't drop it. In class yesterday, this big flat spot, this flat edge, is going to make, as we transition, it's a little hard to see inside of this one, but it creates a flat spot, and I don't want a flat spot. I want this to just kind of smoothly roll out of here. So I'm just going to bevel this back, taper this edge. Get it really nice and thin. Yeah, so this nice crisp edge is going to match really well with the bottom of this. Cut this top back as well. Just want to compress, clean that up really well. Okay, looks good. So now I'm going to a little water or slip, what have you, onto this attachment point. Score that really well. Score this really well. So at this point, this spout's a little bit closer to leather hard. So it's not going to bend or anything, which is good at this point for attaching. But if I was wanting to shape this, it would be really challenging and would be better off to just remake. So it's important that all of that shaping happens while it's wet. Just going to firmly press this down. And with this one, I'm going to like a nice division between spout and teapot body. Just really compress this really well. A nice soft brush is going to do a lot better than a sponge for cleaning these seams up. There we go. Got a nice spout on there, really nice lift. So yeah, maybe a nice big side handle will be good for this. So maybe I'll whip up one of those really quick. Or if I use this extra spout, that'd be ridiculous. All right.